Tons of PC hardware news, and some of it was not intended to be shared. It looks like MSI had listed in, well, unlisted video, but unlisted videos can be accessed if you find them rather than if they're shared, put into private mode, that kind of thing. But this seems to be an internal company training info video talking about Intel's upcoming 14th gen Raptor Lake refresh desktop CPUs. Now, there have been a lot of rumors about this, a lot of leaks about this, but this does look to officially confirm that Intel's 14th gen Raptor Lake refresh desktop CPUs will only be about 3% faster than the 13th gen when talking about single-threaded performance, which would be what's most likely to matter for gaming performance, which is what my channel focuses on. The video has since been taken down, but some websites like WCCF Tech here did get screen captures before it was put private. So in the official document here, we do see, this is under NDA. This is not supposed to be shared yet, but hey, it did. But in the end, we're basically seeing, again, on average, 3% faster than 13th gen, same segment skew. And no real architectural changes. It's on the same Intel 710 nanometer process. And again, it is just called Raptor Lake Refresh. Did not mean to click to the next slide yet there. The only major difference that we're seeing on this slide is that the 14700K specifically will be 17% faster in multi-threading because of extra E-cores, and then they highlight the differences. So they're showing that while the 13700K to 14700K does jump up an extra 4 E-cores, which again, not likely to help you in your gaming performance, but in multi-threaded workloads, looks like the 13600K and 13900K keep the same core count configurations, which would mean that it would only be about a 3% boost even in multi-threading as well. There was one other seemingly relevant slide here, which does at least mention higher DDR5 frequencies, so that's something. But again, it is sticking with the same LGA 1700 socket, so this should be compatible with the previous motherboards and all of that. But again, looks to be a rather modest increase in gaming performance, and then maybe certain models like that 14700K, will be more interesting for multi-threading. Now, speaking of being compatible with older motherboards, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be new motherboards, refreshed for this new lineup of chips. And it looks like Asus is unveiling their ROG Maximus Dark Hero, ROG Strix, and TUF Z790 refresh motherboards. So these are still Z790s. There's not going to be a new Z890 or anything like that for the 14th gen. But again, a refreshed version of them for these chips. So in general, there seem to be some differences here, like it looks like Wi-Fi 7 support on these, and again, and also support for PCIe Gen 5 SSDs. Although this article here at videocards.com is saying that it is worth noting that Intel's platform is constrained to 16 lanes when you're using the PCIe Gen 5 standard, which means that using that storage type would limit GPU lanes to 8, which is not a limitation on AMD's 600 series motherboards. Anyway, also in Asus motherboard news, they were showing off certain ones in the BTF lineup, which I think is Back to the Future, but apparently different enough from the movie franchise to not get sued or whatever. What's mostly interesting on these are the ones that will support the extra little power connector. A while back, I'd reported on Asus showing off GPUs that would have no power cables, but that would mean they would grab their power from the motherboard through an extra little slot near the PCIe slot to deliver the power to the GPU. This looks like them moving forward with that. While I do like innovative designs, and that certainly seems interesting, my main concern over this is vendor lock, Because if one motherboard and GPU manufacturer has their own proprietary design for this, first of all, if the GPU doesn't have any normal power connectors, what does that do for your GPU resale value, right? Most people are going to sell their older hardware when they upgrade. So if it's only compatible with very specific motherboards, I don't really like that for the resale value. And again, in general, I'm not a huge fan of vendor lock. I think that if this kind of thing is going to be a good thing moving forward, it would need to be more standardized across GPU and motherboard manufacturers for it to be, in my opinion, a good thing. Although offering, a cable-less, power cord-less design is certainly interesting, and I'm not against that in and of itself. Anyway, also at Gamescom, we are again expecting to hear about AMD's RX 7800 XT and 7700 XT. We still haven't got the official announcement. However, we do see that the ASRock Gamescom booth is certainly making it clear that we should be getting some new RDNA 3 GPUs in the upcoming announcement. Because again, AMD's Radeon division did not specifically say it would be new GPUs. They did say their next major product, which certainly hints that it's probably GPUs. But we have placeholders on on ASRock's shelf here saying RDNA 3 and saying the 26th of August. Now, 26th of August will probably be when they're showing it off in the booth. As far as when we would expect AMD's announcement, we are expecting that tomorrow, August 25th, because that's when AMD's gaming festival is scheduled, again, for Friday, August 25th at... this is saying 12 local German time, so adjust to wherever you're at in the world. And the highlight show featuring AMD GPU chief Scott Herkelman is set for 1700 hours, again based on that local German time. So again, all signs are absolutely pointing to this being a 7800 XT at least, and possibly also a 7700 XT. And we'll just have to wait until tomorrow to get the full news, and I will definitely do a video covering that announcement. So again, just stay tuned to the channel. Now, in CPU news, AMD's Ryzen 9 7945 HX3D has received some reviews. Now, this is interesting because it's bringing the X3D Vcache technology to a mobile CPU for the first time. At first, this has been launched as an exclusive with the Asus ROG Scar 17 laptop. Now, I'm very interested in this in the mobile form factor because AMD's X3D CPUs deliver excellent gaming performance without having to draw massive amounts of power, which is very interesting in a mobile form factor. It's looking like the first numbers out here. This is a videocards.com article, but they're grabbing this slide from Notebook Check, it looks like. Does show the 7945 HX3D with an RTX 4090 and at 175 watts here, up against a similar, powered Alienware M18 laptop with a Core i9 from Intel, and it is showing the 7945 HX3D outperforming it. And so that is definitely good and on what I would expect to see. Again, it looks like there were fairly limited review outlets available, but again, if you are more interested in this, go ahead and check those out. Although it looks like at this point, they were unable to discuss the cost of the laptop, which would affect a lot of your interest in that particular laptop. What does it cost? Now, again, this had been officially talked about as partnering specifically with Asus ROG Scar 17, but I'm also seeing this article at videocards.com talking about a Minis Forum small form factor PC featuring up to the Ryzen 9 7945 HX3D. Now, this one isn't out yet, but it at least does point to Minis Forum expecting to be able to offer that at some point. I'm wondering if there will be any kind of time frame at which that would be available. So again, it looks like that might at least at some point come out beyond that specific laptop. Now, there's some very interesting OLED monitor news. So if you guys have watched my channel for a while, you know I absolutely love OLED monitors. Yes, there's burn-in potential, all of that, but man, the perfect black and the amazing contrast, all of that, I'm a big fan. I have, you know, the Alienware Ultra Wide, but I also have the first OLED I got. It was my LG C1, which, you know, at the time to get a 4K OLED screen, you had to buy like a 48-inch TV. And we've now seen them shrink down to 42-inch offerings, but for a lot of people, that's still just way too big. So we're finally seeing a 4K OLED monitor in a more normal desktop monitor size of 32 inches. And not only that, but like my you know, LG 4K OLED TV is only 120 hertz. This is going up to 240 hertz. So this will be a 240 hertz QD OLED 32-inch 4K monitor, and that will be the first of its kind. And I think this is what I think a lot of people may have been waiting for, is a 4K OLED in a more you know, a more desktop appropriate size for a lot of people's setups. Now, this looks great. If I had to pick on anything here that doesn't look amazing, it's the fact that at 4K 240 hertz, you would hope that they would feature the newer DisplayPort 2.1 connections, but they don't. It's DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI 2.1. My understanding is that will require display stream compression in order to hit the 240 hertz 4K, and that's unfortunate. You know, display stream compression is advertised as visually lossless, but again, it would be nice to just have the more up-to-date standard on it, especially if you're going to pair it with, you know, future GPUs, things like that. Maybe you keep your monitor through several GPU upgrades. Anyway, I think it would have been nice to future-proof that. Actually, I should mention, well, that's the one I was most excited about. They were also announcing a couple other monitors. They do have a 3440 by 1440, you know, 144 hertz curved QD OLED incoming. And wait, is that the 3440 one? No, is this the 49-inch? No, okay, so they do have the 3441, but then they also have a 49-inch, you know, super ultra wide, and that's this one. Most of these don't have a price tag on them, but this one did at $1,500. But anyway, I'm mostly interested in that new 4K panel. Now again, talking about DisplayPort 2.1, there are monitors coming out with that port available. So this is a thing that monitor manufacturers can do. We're seeing Samsung launching an Odyssey Neo G9 57-inch dual UHD 240 hertz gaming monitor. So again, basically your resolution here is like, and aspect ratio is basically like you have two normal 1440p monitors stuck together with that full width and resolution. And again, going up to 240 hertz here, with the DisplayPort 2.1 connector to actually, you know, if you have a GPU with the compatible port, get you the full uncompressed bandwidth on that. Another interesting QD OLED monitor I'm seeing here is from Philips Evnia, showing off a 49-inch 240 hertz QD OLED monitor starting at a very high price tag here. It looks like 1,900 euros. However, again, it's you know, super ultra wide kind of form factor, which is interesting. And they've also got a couple of interesting things. Again, this coming from Philips. They are having their own Philips lighting integrated into the back. And they're also looking like they're pushing the built-in speakers, so the built-in sound. Most monitors don't have very good built-in speakers. They are saying that they're having enhanced audio with DTS sound. You know, remains to be seen how good that would actually be, and if you would be happy using that over any, you know, desktop speakers. But it certainly does look like an interesting design that I thought I would mention. We're also seeing an Alienware monitor. This one is definitely not OLED, but this one is pushed at esports. It's a 500 hertz panel compatible with FreeSync Premium, coming in at $650. This would be a 1080p IPS monitor, again targeted very specifically at gaming. Now, Nvidia has been talking a lot about some of their technologies. I already did a video focusing on their new DLSS 3.5. However, along with that announcement, Nvidia did announce a few other things. One is that Half-Life 2 is getting an RTX remix. Well, it's getting updated using RTX remix. Although unlike Portal RTX, where it seemed like Nvidia basically developed that themselves and released that as a showcase, they're more advertising that this is a project being undertaken. It is not finished, but it is using their RTX Remix tool. And they do have some screenshots showing off the differences. Now again, a lot of what they're doing here is also replacing the assets with new ones that are higher resolution and are based on physically based rendering to interact better with the ray tracing. So a lot of these side-by-sides, it's like the most obvious difference is just the updated asset. Obviously there's also lighting differences with the ray tracing and all that, but it's not just showing the original game within the ray trace lighting put in. You do see the updated materials and all that. It is pretty cool. Now, additionally, again, I did say I talked about DLSS 3.5 in a separate video, so I do want to just point you to that if you want more of my full thoughts. However, when I recorded that, there were not there was screenshot footage, but not video footage available. And it can make still shots like this don't show off what it's doing quite as well as the video actually in motion here. If we look at this in motion, you can see that the traditional denoiser can be very crawly, if that makes sense. You can see it kind of shimmers, I guess is probably a better word for it. Very shimmery in motion, and the ray reconstruction denoiser does a better job of not having all that shimmery noise. And if you guys have played games with ray tracing enabled, you've probably seen this in a lot of ray traced reflections where it just it doesn't stay completely stable. So anyway, showing that off in motion I think makes a lot more sense. Again, Alan Wake 2 has been announced as one of the big games that will initially feature this, and they have showed off a premiere trailer showing off the RTX features in Alan Wake 2, including the DLSS 3.5, and they are advertising this as full ray tracing, which sounds like what they called the path tracing in when they did it in Cyberpunk. Again, you can see faster response, less crawling in the image, that kind of a thing, showing off the DLSS 3.5 ray reconstruction being more stable. So again, they're showing more of that off here. I will be interested in this because again, right now it's really okay, Cyberpunk got upgraded with your full ray tracing, your full path tracing feature set, but a lot of games have a much more modest ray tracing feature set because a lot of, if you're targeting consoles as your primary platform, it might not make sense to go through with, as a game developer, with a massive ray tracing feature set. So it's looking like Alan Wake 2 is being advertised as a big one coming out as another big ray tracing title, and that would make sense because Remedy's previous game, Control, was one of the first big ray tracing showcases with very impressive ray traced reflections. So it'll be cool to see what they have coming up with this. Also, it looks like Nvidia is doing a giveaway of a Alan Wake 2 themed RTX 4090, which is interesting. Again, your chances of winning that giveaway, fairly low, but you could take a look at that if you are interested. Now, another thing that Nvidia talked about in the same press briefing, where they talked about DLSS 3.5 and Alan Wake 2 and all that, was taking another look at their AI speech, the Nvidia Ace that they wanted to show off in games. This guy, we've already seen him demoed, and I've talked about him in previous videos, but they're showing a further development to this, where basically previously it would use their language model to where you could speak a question to the character and they would give a response using their Riva text to and then speak it out loud with the text to speech and all of that. However, what they're showing off now is that there's Steer LM, which is basically you can tweak the types of responses you'll get, like their personality a little bit, their humor, toxicity, creativity, and other dials to get different responses from the character, more matching those controls, which is certainly a good move forward in the feature. Now, when I actually watched the video showing this off, though, my main criticism is actually in the text-to-speech, because it just wasn't a convincing actor. It did feel pretty robotic. So while I think that this is an interesting technology, I think if it's actually going to get into games, it would feel weird if text-to-speech doesn't improve. That's my main thought on it. Is it's a cool technology, but if you can actually use it in games, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I am interested in seeing it move forward. We're getting some new GPU drivers. AMD's latest driver, in addition to supporting Immortals of Avium, does announce a few fixes. One of them is continued improvements to the high idle power when using select multi-display setups, which has been reported since launch on the 7000 series GPUs, and they say that they are continuing to investigate more optimizations in that regard. And again, fixing a few other issues down that list. Nvidia also did get a new GPU driver out, which does announce the game-ready driver support for Starfield, as well as Icarus's expansion. But this, I think, also has a couple of bug fixes, things like that, including Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart performance fluctuations with direct storage and Nvidia Reflex. Looks like they are fixing that compatibility. Now, one thing I should mention is you may start see headlines about, RTX 50 series leaked in EEC submissions, and the important thing to note is that these trademarks being submitted here about the 50 series are absolutely not telling us anything about the 50 series. Because the company doing it, AFOX, doesn't have any kind of inside deal with Nvidia. They're not a direct Nvidia partner. So while they they can trademark these names, it doesn't mean 5090 confirmed, 5090 Ti confirmed. None of that confirmed. So if you do see any headlines or thumbnails talking about that, don't be fooled. And it's looking like, also coming out of Gamescom, Phil Spencer at Xbox saying that there will not be an Xbox Series X or S mid-gen refresh, at least not in the works at this time, saying that there is no need for it. He goes on to say that, these new-gen consoles are still, I think he refers to it as near the end of their beginning phase. In other words, I think he feels like there's a lot more potential for developers if they can just focus on this exact hardware set to continue to pull better graphics out of the hardware that's already there without having to worry about targeting another set of hardware. Now, it's looking like Nvidia has smashed their earnings estimates this quarter and is predicting another 170% revenue growth, which is massive. Now, I was interested to see how much of this is their gaming division versus their data center division, which would be all the AI stuff. And as expected, it definitely looks like this is riding on the data center segment, which is dwarfing their gaming segment. And this is also where I think if people are hoping for massive price cuts on NVIDIA gaming GPUs, I think just realistically, if that silicon can be used to make massive profits in AI, they're probably not super incentivized to give us great deals in the gaming segment, to be honest. And you can see that that's definitely where their money is being made right now. Now, I thought this was interesting. It looks like Epic Game Store is, they've done a bunch of, year-long exclusive deals and things like that, and they do their game giveaways trying to grow their platform. It looks like their next thing that they'll be doing to try to attract exclusivity to their game store is giving publishers all the revenue from the game for the first 6 months, if they'll be exclusive to Epic Game Store for that first 6 months. Now, I don't like exclusivity, but I do think this could be interesting to some game developers in the sense that, Steam does take, I think it's a 30% cut, and Epic Games themselves, I think, do a 12% split. But yeah, I think they do 88, 12% sharing versus 70-30. This is offering a full 6 months of 100% revenue to the game developer. So I'll be interested to see if we see any game devs take them up on that. And the last thing I'll mention is that it looks like MSI has boosted gaming performance on their AM5 motherboards by offering a high efficiency memory mode. Now, they're claiming an up to 12% performance uplift. Now, what this looks like to me is the same kind of performance you could get anywhere by tweaking the memory yourself, but it's looking like they're offering for certain popular RAM kits, at least, some pre-tuned settings. So it says pre-configured memory profiles for a set of popular modules on the market. Offering higher bandwidth and lower latency, and it looks like there's various settings for the memory timing presets, like tightest, tighter, balanced, and relax, and they do show off some gaming performance data indicating improvements there. But really, I think this is taking advantage of the newer AGESA firmware that most motherboards are updating to, which are allowing higher frequency, things like that. So anyway, looks neat. Like I said, stay tuned. Tomorrow we are expecting the new GPUs coming in from AMD. So with that in mind, I would imagine I will be putting out a video talking about that tomorrow. But again, like I said, I don't actually know 100% that is happening, but we will highly expect that. So stay tuned, and I hope all of you have an excellent day.